This is going to be an amazing class, just like most classes that we had. I really appreciate your support, your understanding. I can see actually on YouTube that most of you watched our classmates' videos. I am so happy and so proud of all of you. And in a minute, we're going to be talking about those videos. And of course, we're going to have two live presentations today. So I hope you have your popcorn with you and I have your sodas or your chips or whatever, because we're going to have two wonderful presentations today. And tonight, I'm also going to finish with some information about what are the final future trends in global leadership, which I'm sure you are already there. And I am sure all of you already have all these skills, but I believe also it's good to know what's coming. So we are ready. Usually leaders need to be aware of all the environment, internal, external environment, because that helps us be ready, be better. And of course, we're going to talk about that today. So let's begin, as we do in every class, with our final acknowledgement here to Canada and Vancouver. I really thank you for joining me in this acknowledgement that I have been making in every class. The acknowledgement is because the city of Vancouver, where I reside, it's situated in the unceded traditional territories of three main First Nations, which are Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. So I am really grateful for these First Nations. We are in their territories, so I am thankful, grateful, and I show my respect to these First Nations, because we couldn't have this class if I wasn't able to be here in this city of Vancouver. So now this is what we're going to be doing today. Okay, of course, we're going to start with some comments about our final presentations and our videos. I read already some of your comments and suggestions, and actually, I will let you know all the comments and suggestions that I've got. I'm going to send them to your private email, so you receive the feedback on your presentations from your classmates too, because I think the whole objective is always to know if we have windows of opportunities, if maybe there are things that were more appreciated, maybe more valued. And always feedback is also a wonderful opportunity, of course, to usually transform opportunities into positive changes in the future. So I'm going to be doing that. We're going to then go to our live final presentations, and we're going to begin with Rose Kelly, and then we're going to go with Michelle and Hannah. We're going to do their live presentations today. So I ask everyone to pay attention. Now, I will have a very short, maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes final lecture. And I actually ask you to maybe take notes, because believe it or not, even if this is the final class, this is still very interesting. And I'm going to share very interesting facts with all of you that I hope you take with you. Of course, I'm going to talk about then the final grades for this academic third period. I will also confirm there's something called in Spanish, formato de último día, which means all the students have to reply to my email saying, I confirm that I have been informed about my grade for this third academic period, which is very similar to what we have been doing for the past, the first and the second academic period, but we still have to follow the procedure. Also, I sent an email, and I was just told by Diego, I sent an email where I was asking students to please fill out a form, an evaluation form. But if you haven't filled it out for my students in Mexico, don't do it, because Diego just told me it's only for my students in Brazil and Iraq. If you already answered it, don't worry, you're not in trouble. I didn't know. I'm not in trouble either, but we didn't know, okay? But now that we know, is just a reminder for my students in Brazil and Iraq, please, to then try to please by tomorrow at the latest, if you still haven't done it, fill out the evaluation form for this class. If, again, my students from Mexico, if you haven't filled it out, don't do it. If you have already, Don't worry, we're not in trouble. Okay, very good. And finally, I'm going to present to you this last project that I'm so happy and so excited because this was just authorized. We're going to be organizing an interdisciplinary trip and business trip mostly, in which we're going to combine academic information, of course, recreational activities, but we're also going to include 2 conferences that are going to be delivered by some experts here in Vancouver. I'm not going to be delivering these conferences. These are going to be done in conjunction with Vancouver Community College. So I really hope by presenting this trip is going to be for former students, but also recently graduated students. So that means that even if you're about to graduate, you may still join us, okay? And I will let you know some of the general information. Still, if you are interested, we're coming up with the final cost, because once we have the final cost, I don't know if maybe my students in Mexico know about this, but in high school, for international high school, every year we take students to New York. Yes, very good. And this year, actually, we had 28, almost 30 students traveling to New York. I cannot tell you how hectic that trip was. And believe it or not, many students were actually left out because their passports, I think, or their visas, I cannot remember, did not they didn't get their visas on time. So they couldn't commit from the beginning. But if you think this could be a good option for you, I think the best thing you can start making sure that your passport is still, valid until December 2024. Make sure also you start working, or I don't know, thinking about how to either have your American visa or extend your American visa. I actually have to get my American visa this year because it's due this December. So I still need to do that too. Anyways, I think we're right on time. And just like in high school, beginning our classes in August, all the undergraduate students and recently graduated students, and even for those in Brazil, okay, you can join us, all right? And usually the price includes only, once you get here, all the activities. We usually put you in college students' residencies, okay? So and you usually stay like in a bedroom with other 2 or 3 students to make it a little bit cheaper, but these are very nice residences. So on the flight is the only thing you need to buy and get on your own. We usually recommend maybe some flights, but I remember when I went to Brazil, that's the expensive part. The flight is the expensive part. I know. But anyway, we have almost a year to start saving money, and in August you start making payment. Like I know it's easier, like when you, I don't know, if people are paying, I don't know, $200-300 every month, $100. Usually in December in Mexico we have the aguinaldo, which is the Christmas bonus, and then our mom and dad usually help a little bit with a big payment in December. Yes, of course, Ross, all my students. I'm actually going to get in touch with my students in Argentina, the ones who took the class last semester. Remember, Diana? We had classmates from Argentina. I'm going to get in touch with them also and invite them. Yes, it's going to be amazing. And the only thing we need to make sure, of course, that's why we're doing this on time, is that I submit letters, Argentina, Chile, yes, that I submit the letters with the Vancouver Community College, the whole corporate letter, saying that you have been invited to visit our school during a 2-week vacation. And in that way, it might be easier. Now, the good thing is Canada doesn't require visas like in the United States. So it's easier for you guys to get here actually, I'm going to tell you also later why we're doing this. Next Monday, I think I already told you, I will be the academic host for 3 Tec de Monterrey students from marketing undergraduate. Tec de Monterrey is the name of the university. Undergraduate students, they're coming for 5 weeks because they have a whole project, their final project, like a thesis thing that they have to research. And it's actually very interesting because they are working in Mexico with Chile San Marcos, which is for my students in Brazil, and my students, yes, Good, good, good. Beautiful. Beautiful, thank you. And you can share that with us, Livia, later. So what these students are going to create is a whole project on how Chile's San Marcos, which is a brand in Mexico of spices, how they can actually export their products and sell them here in retail stores. So it's a very interesting project. Anyway, the one we're going to create is going to be more interdisciplinary. It's going to be 2 weeks. So we're going to do it during spring break. So even if you're working or if you're in your master's, you get the week that we already have off. And UNLA is going to justify your absences for the other week in case you are still a student or in case you are in the master's degree. Okay, so we're going to make it work. And I will tell you more about it later towards the end. And of course, I have a beautiful final message for all of you guys. I'm so proud of you. So let's begin with your opinion about your final presentations. If you read my email, you probably read I was very impressed with some of these presentations, and I hope you were too. So I would like some of you guys to share your thoughts about some of the videos that you watched. I would like to begin, and I'm going to be calling your names because we don't have a lot of time. I need your cameras on, guys. This is our last class, so I really need your cameras on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, Livia, why don't you start sharing, please?
No, teacher, actually, it was just a question if we someday, maybe, I don't know, have the opportunity to do like an academic mobility to UNLA, should we have classes in English or Spanish, or we have the two options? I don't know. Just a question.
I have no idea, actually. It's a very good question. I need to ask probably, well, here, the ones coming in Vancouver, everything is going to be in English. The ones coming here in Vancouver, absolutely everything is going to be in English. Like there's no option. Even me, and when we go around and everything's going to be absolutely in English. But you're saying that you're coming to ULA to take some classes? Did I understand that correctly?
No, no, it was just like a question. Maybe, I
Oh,
don't know. I don't know. I have no
well,
idea.
the thing is, you know what? I think most of the live classes at ULA are in Spanish. The only English classes we teach in English, I think, are the ones Diego Prado is teaching and the ones I'm teaching, right, Diana? I can see you noting. And next class, remember, yes, they're in Spanish. Most of the classes are in
That's
Spanish,
great.
Livia. But if you come to Vancouver, you actually get a diploma from UNLA, which is going to be in English. You get also a letter of recognition from Vancouver Community College because it's an academic visit. So I will let you know when it's time to talk about it. So let's talk about our
Great.
final presentations, all right? What do you think about our final presentations before we go to Rose Kelly and Hannah and Michelle who I know are very ready and very excited to present. But let's begin with that. What do you think? Carlita Trejo, what do you think about the videos you watched?
All of them were so different. Like all the videos have the essence of each of us. So it was pretty interesting to watch all of us creating all these videos.
And I think what I liked is they were also different. And the topics that you all use were also very different. So thank you very much. And if you still haven't finished giving the feedback, please, on the videos, make sure you do it, please, as soon as possible. All right. Very good. So Michelle, what do you think about everyone's videos, the ones you watched? And also I'm going to go to Sophie, Mariana Pulido, Christopher, etc. So Michelle, what do you think?
I think my favorite part out of all of them was that they were all very creative. Like they had very specific creative formats that I hadn't seen being used before. So like the WhatsApp or the podcast idea or like stuff like that, I think was really great. And somehow like they were fun, but they were still interesting and they were still academic enough, like it didn't feel like, oh, they're just fooling around. Or because sometimes like I can feel that way, but all of these were both very creative but also very assertive, I think is the word.
I actually have to repeat something you just said. all of them were very academic oriented. And I really want to thank you all because I think you really paid attention to the content of your videos. Very good. I really, really appreciate that. Any other comment about some of the videos? Sophie, what did you like or what did you watch in the videos? And then I'm going to go to our dear Ross. Thank you for waking up for us, dear Ross. I am so grateful. Sophie, what do you think about the videos you watched? Sophie, can you hear us? I can see you, but I don't know if you can hear us. What do you think about the videos?
Yes, I'm sorry. Well, I agree with all my partners that all of them were very creative, and as well as my other peers said, I like really the format they use because all of them use very different but creative ways to make it. So that's what I think I get from all of the experience. Also, the comparison between our cultures, that's something that really gets my attention. So yes, that would be it.
Let me see if I remember. Somebody actually tried to present, I think it was Cami, maybe, and Mariana Chavez, who actually presented some sayings in Mexico, right? So it was like, I thought that was very interesting because sometimes we keep for granted our slang. I bet in Iraq we have slang, in Brazil we have slangs. And when we're talking to other, yes, that's all right, Christopher. I'm so sorry that you have bad connection. Don't worry. And I thought that was always very interesting. So I will be delivering specific feedback to all of you. I just wanted to hear, of course, your comments. And then I'm going to copy paste some of the comments from your classmates, some of the general feedback that we're receiving. So I'm really, really happy, very proud of you. Thank you. And I will repeat this again towards the end of the class. I'm going to send all of you your grades for this academic period. Okay, yeah, I'm going to send this to your email. So make sure to reply by Friday at the latest. Please, yes, I have been informed, blah, blah, blah. And of course, by then you should have gotten your feedback, all right? So I think we're ready. So I'm going to stop sharing and let's begin with our dear Rose Kelly, who's going to begin with her presentation. And in this case, this is going to be a one-on-one presentation. Perfect. And then after Rose Kelly, you will be we're welcome to make comments, suggestions about what you observed. And then we're going to go with Michelle and Hannah, and that will lead us into finishing our presentations for the semester. So I'm going to be quiet now. And if you're going to show your presentation, let me make you a presenter, Rose Kelly. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Okay, I believe you are a presenter now. I'm going to mute myself, get organized, share your presentation. Very good. And whenever you're ready, no problem. Just let us know when you're ready.
Okay, so can you hear the presentation? It's the first time I am presenting in, in this platform. So first
You're
of
doing
all,
a wonderful job and we can see you, we can hear you. Go.
okay, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to thank you, all of you, for being my partners this month. It was a very great experience. I could share my experience with you, and I learned a lot with you too. So thank you so much for being part of this experience. So now I would like to show you something that I am studying in the university. It's related to education, and it's also related to leadership. In my point of view, the leadership made the difference in the study of this specific case. So that's why I am studying this, and it's something that I intend to keep studying during the next semesters. It's the leadership in the schools. Okay. So the matter is leadership in the educational area, a success Brazilian case. I will talk about the city of Sobral. Sobral is a small city located in the northeast of Brazil. So here is São Paulo, where Lívia and I live, and here is the state of Ceará. And Sobral is a small city right here in this part. It's a very poor, it's the 50th poorest state. Ceará is the 50th poorest state in Brazil. And Sobral is a very poor city as well. So in 2005, 1,365 municipalities had a better score than Sobral and IDEB. IDEB is a Basic Education Development Index. By 2017, Sobral made national news by ranking number 1 in the entire world, in the entire country. Understanding the success of Sobral requires looking back to the beginning of a reform effort in 1997, when the newly elected mayor of Sobral implemented reforms to improve the educational system. So the municipal leadership made many important reforms that were key to the success. So what happened when he assumed the city? He identified that the students were not learning. So they requested assessment. They required a company to make an assessment, and it reveals that almost 50% of the students didn't know how to read. So it was a problem. And instead of hiding this problem, he decided to change it. And he decided to implement ways to revert the situation. So the reforms were setting clear targets for each school and monitor improvements, increasing school autonomy and responsibility, introducing a new pedagogy, training teachers, and increasing financial incentives to school staff. The introduction of external assessment of all primary school students held twice a year and identifying new ways to improve students' literacy. I don't know if you can see my camera. It disappeared. Yeah?
That's right. It disappeared, but don't worry. We can still
Okay.
hear you. That's all
I,
right.
I
Keep
think
going.
it's my connection.
It's probably the connection. Don't worry. Just keep going. You're fine.
Okay. So, the mayor of Sobral established education as one of the main priorities of his government. His administration and hired an educational system where principals and teachers were hired based on political interests rather than meritocracy. I believe this is the biggest problem because until now in São Paulo, for example, we still have this. We have a test to be a teacher, but we know that some teachers, some coordinators are selected by political interest. So one of the first reforms was to lay off 100 teachers who were hired without meeting the necessary technical requirements and defined technical criteria for hiring new teachers. So he established a law that changed the way he would start hiring new teachers. So the problem is that a substantial contingent of students in the early of elementary school in Sobral were not able to read words. So without being able to read, students have difficulty in advancing to learn other subjects. It can limit their future earning, career options, and quality of life. Also, all children should have the right to learn, regardless of their social economic states. the municipal leadership knew that making change required support of teachers, the principals, and also the parents. So instead of hiding the problem, the mayor went to the radio and said, "We have a problem. Students are not learning." So he announced at the population that there was a problem that should be solved. So making strategic reforms throughout the entire system. There was no single solution that was ultimately responsible for improvement in the educational system. Many different policies were implemented over many years. So institutional management at the secretariat level. So the idea was for the school superintendent's team to visit each school at least twice a month to monitor the school, including teacher attendance, function, instructor, etc. So there was a superintendent who started to visit the schools to check if everything was okay, if the teachers needed something, so to monitor what was happening. So the implementation of periodic assessment of every school, allowing them to make corrections to change teaching strategies and the necessary teacher support. So in Brazil, we have assessments, but they happen in the end of the year. So it's too late to make the corrections. So in Sobral, they were done twice a year, and we had time to correct, to make corrections. And instead of blaming poor results on external problems, because it's a reality of Sobral, it's poverty, violence, lack of funds, the assessment helped shift the discussions to look at what could be changed. Strengthening school management at the school level. Principals were now selected based on technical, not political criteria. So there is a test to be a principal, but you have also a training and a psychology process, like a company, like an interview you have in a company to decide if you are able or not to be a principal. And the pedagogical coordinators were selected by merit. The principal was allowed to select pedagogical coordinators they wanted to work with based on a list of approved professionals. So, for example, if I want to be a pedagogical coordinator, I tested on the test, I do all the training. So, okay, I am okay to be a coordinator. They will check my profile to see what is this school I would fit better, because maybe my profile is okay for one school, but it's not okay for the other. So they are identifying the kind of person, the kind of school, and the principal can choose. So it's something that don't happen in São Paulo. In São Paulo, so oh, you are approved, go to anywhere. So and it's terrible. So the schools were given more financial autonomy, increasing the responsibility of schools principals to produce results. So what happened in most of the schools? If you have a small problem like a sink or a toilet broken, you needed to have authorization. There is a bureaucratic process to make a change, to make a fix. So now they have more autonomy to do small things, to deal with the money. So it gives more results, but it increases the responsibility as well. So pedagogic straightening, the textbooks were hardly used by teachers as they were too difficult for students. The team who carried out the original diagnostic assessment in 200 was hired to prepare new learning material for teachers, setting weekly weekly and monthly learning goals. They also providing training. So the material was not used because it was not appropriated for the students. So the material was totally changed. The teachers were trained, and I was talking to some teachers at the university who also studied about this matter, and they told me that the weekly and monthly meetings made the difference. So there is the coordinator is working together with the teacher, so it's the leadership. So it makes the difference. Escola Alfabetizadora Prize, a monetary incentive for teachers, pedagogical coordinators, and school principals if the school achieves its learning goals. So we learned this in the leadership classes because sometimes you need to do a kind of prize to motivate people. And the story of Sobral's success has spread far across Brazil and beyond. As Sobral's success grew, many municipalities in Ceará began to see Sobral as a possible example of positive device. The variety reforms worked together to create a culture of experimentation, iteration, reflection, and accountability. So if we get the last result of EDEB, Sobral is not the first one. I believe it is in six or seven position, but the first, second, third, and fourth is in Ceará. So Ceará is an example of education in Brazil, and we expect it can reflect in São Paulo, in Rio Grande do Sul, and all around Brazil. And a spirit of shared responsibility developed between school staff and with the Secretary of Education. They are now able to focus on other distinct problems, such as now learning Portuguese and mathematics. So the problem was too big that the children could not read. Now we have other problems like Portuguese and maths. But the worst, in my opinion, is the basic, is reading. So that's it. And I would like to thank you again for paying attention.
That was amazing. What a wonderful success story. And before I start sharing, from all my students, were you able to identify, as Rose said, some actions that people took that resemble some of the leadership skills, characteristics, and actions that leaders should usually take? What do you think from the example Rose Kelly just shared with us? What could you identify? I was able to identify several, but I would like you to share. Yes, Michelle, go ahead.
I think for me, the most impressive part, because it feels like something out of a movie, but the most impressive part was that instead of ignoring the problem or hiding it, throwing it under the rug, they exited. And it's so important because the first step to fixing a problem is recognizing it. So instead of letting ego be like, oh no, that doesn't happen here, they recognized it and started working on it. And I think that's really impressive.
I agree with you, Michelle, and I hope you're all taking notes as a final wrap up. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to take notes of this final, as this being the final class. Taking responsibility, that requires leadership, saying this is not working. We need to recognize, be aware of the fact that this is happening. And if we don't do that, that's actually, I think, one of the most important situations or circumstances why problems just keep growing and growing and growing, because people do not recognize we do have a problem. So very good, Michelle. Any other characteristic of leadership that you were able to find, my dear students? Anything else? Oh, Michelle. Well, yes, let's go with Sophie and then I'll go back. Yes, go, Sophie.
Well, I think that the fact that they get the training to the teachers might be like one important thing to say, and maybe the change of the pedagogical methods that they were using that's another important thing, because that really makes a difference in the child's education.
Completely agree, Sophie. You know what takes leadership to bend the status quo, which is what we have been doing, it's not working. And that takes guts, because just kind of what Michelle said is saying, okay, we have been doing this over and over and over. It's not working. We have to find a way, but we have never done it like that. That's the first answer. People, remember we talked about change, and we talked that people are scared of change. So the first answer is no, but we have always done it this way. No, usually being aware and being brave enough to bend, to change, to get out of this status quo that is not letting us or leading us into the results we need to get to, that also requires leadership. So yes, Sophie, thank you. Doing things differently, right? There's even a quote. There's nothing more crazy than expecting different results while you keep doing the same thing over and over, correct? Very good. Thank you very much, Sophie. I'll go to Diana, and then I'll go to my dear Ross in Iraq. Thank you. Go, Diana.
I think that Michelle told like the first step, that is noticing and accepting the problem. Then Sophie said like to make a change. And then I also noticed that Kelly mentioned something about incentives. Like once people have done their work good and the way that they are supposed to do, they get incentives. And in as a leader, I think that's very important, to keep motivating people to keep doing the work like they have they are supposed to do. And like this aguinaldo or Christmas bonus that we in Mexico have, that's an incentive. And we also in class, I think that we talk about some incentives, and or having like the posadas, like parties, or in Teachers Day, like a lunch, or yeah, like some gifts to recognize the work. And yeah, and also like to have fun, and not like don't be so stressed about work, and just relax and have some fun.
Very good, Diana. This is what I would like you to take notes of. Again, motivation, remember, there's intrinsic motivation and external, or usually external motivation. Intrinsic motivation is usually what comes from within yourself, all right? What makes you feel valuable, what makes you feel, that when you're doing something, when you work doing something that makes you happy, that's intrinsic. But external motivation is very important. And I think all of you, my dear leaders, you have seen this. One word makes a difference. One word of recognition. One word of, oh my God, Carla, I realized you did this. Oh my God, Marianita, I saw this. Or Livia, that was amazing. That little word of recognition is, I see you. The I see you sometimes is so, we don't give the importance to the I see you and I hear you enough. And please make sure you, my future leaders, let the people around you know that you see them and you hear them, because that is the power of recognition. All right, very good. And finally, let's go to Ross before we actually go to Hana and Michelle's presentation. Yes, dear Ross, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank Rose Kelly for the presentation. And I recognized one point, which is basically taking teacher's attendance. We do this thing here. Let's say my mom basically is my teacher at the university, and she has to attend even if she doesn't have any classes. And let's say, for example, if the students plan themselves to not attend, let's say for like a specific day, let's say for Wednesday, and the teacher would know herself that she doesn't have any classes to teach, she's required to like attend. So I'd say we do also have that thing. And talking about how the principal is has this kind of role of being the leader, talking about our past principal, when it's, let's say, our graduation day, it's like that day is felt more like a holiday. So like the teachers don't teach, even if they have classes, they don't give their own classes. But we have a new principal now. He's so strict with the education and everything going. So I'd say when it was my graduation day before, like a week or so, my mom or like even other teachers had to take their own classes, give their own classes, sorry, for the students, and then attend the graduation ceremony.
You know what? You just said something very important. I think all the teachers also show leadership by adapting and maybe bending the rules a little bit because they knew that was very important for the students, right? So I think that was very important. And that is amazing that your mom is your teacher. And actually, I have good news for all of you this morning. Oh, so excited. And I'm so glad I get to share this with you. This is my intrinsic motivation. You know, I love teaching, right? You know this. I got a phone call this morning from Vancouver Community College. As all of you know, I am teaching classes for the project management department. And so far I'm teaching 2 classes. First term, 1 class, second term, 2 classes. And the more experience I get, the more, I get more classes. But this morning I received also a phone call from the Department of Management. And they want me also to teach classes for them starting the fall. So I'm going to have 2 groups, 2 groups additionally to the groups I'm teaching. And I'm going to be teaching organizational behavior, which makes me so happy. And that is what I need. That is my intrinsic motivation, knowing that I'm going to be able to continue doing what I love. That's all I need. That's all I need. And I feel so blessed because I have told you before, it is very rare to come to this country and in less than 2 years to be making the same money and have the same job that most Canadians have usually after 10 years of living here. Most immigrants get where I am usually after 8 or 10 years of working here. So I am so blessed and I'm so happy I get to share that with you. You see, very good. That's intrinsic motivation. Yes, you have a question, my dear Ross. Go ahead.
I need to say something. Actually, your teaching style is the only thing that actually makes me wake up at 4 a.m. I am so like in love with the way it shows how much you love teaching, and how much you want the student to learn and interact with one another. I honestly love this.
Thank you so much. And actually, guys, I hope you all get to do what you love, because when you get to do what you love, you don't have to. And actually, I chose a quote for the end of the class in which I said, you don't need to do anything special or have a special position of leadership to be a leader. When you do what you love, your life, it's enough. Your passion is enough to actually inspire others around you. So I hope this blessing that I have about doing what I love, you also do whatever it takes, guys. But please do what you love. And then money will come, and then happiness will come, and the rest will come. Just make sure you do what makes you happy. Very good. Thank you so much for your comment. So let's go to our final presentation. I'm so happy. So Michelle and Hannah, I know, I am very happy. I know. So whenever you're ready, who should I make presenter, Michelle or Hannah? Who's going to be in charge of the presentation?
I think I will be presenting.
Okay, let me make a presenter then. Hold on. Give it some time. Okay, I think now you should be able to share your presentation. Whenever you're ready, guys.
Okay. We can start. Hello, Michelle.
But I think everyone is seeing
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Yes.
I don't know why it's happening. I'm really sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Sorry, don't worry.
Some technical issues.
You are among friends. Nothing to worry about. We're all friends. Okay, whenever you're ready, guys.
Okay, so hello. As you know, I am Michelle, and with my teammate Hana, we are team 3, I believe, if I'm not wrong. And we will be presenting cultural comprehension and its importance in leadership and we want to share with you two special case studies as examples.
And as my teammate said that we are be talking about cultural comprehension, and our main point in this talking is that to know the importance of understanding different cultures and respecting them, how in order maybe to build a successful business, a healthier communication, or avoiding misunderstanding, and so much more when you are communicating with someone with a different culture. And in our discussion point, as we can see that first we will be talking about cultural comprehension.
We will also be discussing cross-cultural management.
And also real case, for example, Airbnb company.
Second real case will be very personal to me because it will be my own life as an immigrant.
And also leadership.
Then slide 3, I included a quote that I very much like that I shared with Hana, and she agreed that it was good. And it's, "The love of one's country is a splendid thing, but why should love stop at the border?" And this was said by Pablo Casals, which is one of the most important Spanish cellists in the world. So it's also coming from someone in a completely different country from all of us. And we thought it was very nice. And so our first stop, because our presentation is like an intercultural trip, is bridging cultural differences and how to understand that it is precisely all about understanding and empathy between one another.
So first of it, what is cultural? Cultural consists of different beliefs, values, religions, languages, and also many other different things like art, traditions, social norms. So each of them generates a culture that specifically has its own different values and respect. And that's what is cultural.
We have to look to achieve intercultural perspective. And as we've seen in class, not everything is in black and white, or not everything has to be the Western way, or not everything is correct just because I say so. Thanks to globalization, we live in like a new, very broad world, and we have to learn how to adapt, and not only adapt to, but respect all kinds of different cultures and backgrounds. And here we have another quote. We have a lot of quotes to share with you. It's very long, but I will make it short. It was said by Susie Kasim, and it's, "The more doors you open, the smaller you feel. And because you begin to feel smaller, your ego disappears and you become more humble. A man who behaves arrogantly and says that he knows everything and claims to know all only reveals that he knows nothing."
And also, what is cultural self-awareness? Cultural self-awareness is a very essential step so that the individuals will be more conscious for their cultural assumption and allowing them to engage with a different cultural in a more open way so that it also reduce the misunderstanding and being more respectful. And we also have
Yes. Oh, slide 5. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Go ahead, Hannah.
Okay, cultural comprehension consists of the many different points. First of them, cultural context and also sensitivity. It's very important to show your sensitivity to someone who has a different cultural or context so that you are showing that you are respectful to them. And also we have it is very possible to have different culture with your culture. So it is cultural within your culture and also multicultural factors and also appreciating diversity, which is that if you are a team that consists of different cultural, it's very important to stay in a one hand and also being respectful to each other to achieve their result together.
Regarding cross-cultural management, we actually were remembering the examples that we saw in class. And I think the one that stuck with me most personally was Starbucks. We all remember how Starbucks failed miserably because they could not keep up with a cross-cultural management. They tried to force their own ways upon a new culture, and they ended up going bankrupt in that culture. So we really have to remember that and take into consideration intercultural challenges and diverse cultural dimensions. And here I want to actually ask all of you guys, and you can either put it in the chat or open your mic, what do you think makes a good global leader? Please answer me.
I cannot answer because I'm the teacher, so let's
But
hear it
anyone
from the
else,
student.
please.
Can you repeat the question, please, Michelle?
Yeah. What do you think makes a good global leader?
I suggest, if you let me, that in the chat you can actually write words. Exactly, words or key phrases that are related to a global leader. Very good, thank you. There you go. You see, you got answers.
Thank you. And so while you're answering, we can move on to the next slide.
So we are also explaining real cases. So why we should learn with the real cases. Real cases are important because they are offer you more deeply and detailed exploration for a specific subject so that you can understand from it and learn from the experiences and also know that what is the complex issues that can maybe face you when you are in the same situation.
And so here, as you're answering, it has to do with this. We put examples that were successful rather than bad. So we have Starbucks again. See, they learned because if you remember when they went to Italy, they actually adapted to the culture instead of trying to force themselves. So as you've put in the chat, we have accepting diversity, cultural acknowledgement, empathy, humbleness. If you remember all these case studies, they have all of this. They have an open mind, they're aware of differences, and they adapt to their own situations.
So here we have an example of a company that has represented as a successful cultural comprehension, which is a Airbnb company, which is a platform that you can apply for staying in a local homes so that you are experiencing or uh, used to adapt with someone or a host that has a very different background from you. So in this platform, you can be experiencing a very different and also develop your cultural awareness so that you are adapting or living with someone in the other part of this world with a different background by this platform. And I don't know, but how many of you have or tried this Airbnb or have you heard about it? Okay. Can you open or say that? Okay. That's very good and it's very important because it's also very interesting so that you will experience this and it's also useful for your skills.
And here is probably the most embarrassing part of the presentation, a picture of me when I was 7 years old. And this will be our second case study that I want to share with you guys. And it's my own personal experience with my immigrant life in the United States. Oh man, I could go on about hours about this, but I want to keep it very simple with you in the regards of how it shaped me as a person. You know, it really did help me, especially with the subjects related to this class. When we got to the United States with my mom, who's also in the picture, I noticed immediately that a huge part of the population in the United States was immigrants, like the rest of us. But you know, despite that, I felt really out of place because I was a Mexican child moving into a new culture, and despite knowing other Mexican children, they had already adapted to this culture and these differences. And I very quickly discovered, I stole this quote from another TED Talk, that despite the fact that I was a majority in the city I was in, I was still somehow a minority in my school. Like, despite there being other immigrants, I was never really able to resonate with them because I felt so out of place. I had such a big problem identifying who I was and who I belonged with, not only at school, but also back home. There's a quote by Tamerlane that says, "Only when we experience different cultures do we realize the immense difference between various cultures and our own." And I really, really had issues with these points that I put in the presentation, which was individualism. The United States is such an individual city or country, I mean. So everyone was just doing their own thing. They didn't really care to empathize much. I had such a big clash of cultural mentalities because of this, because Mexican and US cultures were so different. Like in Mexico, familialism is super important. Family is on the core of everything, right? So for me, I was used to that. But in the United States, everyone was like, no, we don't do that here. So I even tried to start imposing that at my own home. So we would be fighting all the time because I was like, but no, here they do it differently. And my mom was like, no, they do it like this, so it really sucked. And I really had some difficult times discovering my own identity. Ultimately, however, now that I'm older, this really helped me grow so much as a person. I experienced so much diversity and cultural richness that when I came back to Mexico, I realized that I was at a totally different mindset from other people my own age. I'm not saying that I was like, oh, so enlightened and so much better. I realized that I still have a lot to grow and learn. But thanks to these experiences and classes like the one I'm taking right now here at UNLA, I feel like I've definitely become a better person of myself who is more culturally aware and much more empathic because I lived through it. And here I put a quote by a Hamilton mixtape song that I really recommend that says, and it's really astonishing that in a country funded by immigrants, immigrant has somehow become a bad word. So it really helped me grow and shape me as a whole person.
Okay, here we have another code, of course, but this one is very special because this one is from my amazing teacher, and it's from the first class till now. I'm still impressed with it. So it says that a good chef is someone who knows to cook with the different ingredients. If you are asking why we put it here, because it's mean the same if you are thinking about if you are a good leader, you should know how to adapt with the different people with the different cultures. So it's also that's why we put it. And we have our conclusion.
Yes, here in slide 10, I ask you again, or we ask you again, why do you think it's important to understand these subjects? Do you have any ideas?
Again, you can write on the chat, don't worry.
Yes.
Okay, guys.
Okay. Yes, I agree with all of you. To be a great leader, to be more respectful, to be a better person and professional, and to grow as a person, a globalized world, to be more conscious, etc. We agree because, as all of you mentioned, we have to be more conscious and more empathic, especially as leaders. Two people are two completely different worlds, and we have to learn how to be appreciative of everyone's differences and really take our responsibilities as future leaders.
And also, the most important part of learning about cultural comprehension is that it's also help you in a global environment. How it help you? Because it make you have an effective communication or building relationship and business opportunities, and also avoiding the misunderstanding, which is the most important part. And also, last, the key of a successful to communicate with this world in a very different way. That's all.
We want to mention that we have been able to learn from each other, and we thought, because we're from two different cultures, and we thought that it would be very important to share those experiences with you as well. And thank you. So just to
Thank you
conclude,
so much.
let's ask ourselves, as the teacher said, what will we leave for the new leaders we will create in the future? Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Congratulations. And actually, we're going to talk in a minute about what are some of those trends very briefly. So don't worry. This is the perfect excuse to go into the next topic. So any comments from anyone about this wonderful presentation? Comments, suggestions, ideas? Yes, Diana, and then I'll go to Livia, and then I'll go to Christopher.
I have a question that is to Michelle, and it's to which city did you move in? Yeah, in the United States, because it's not the same to move to Los Angeles or to Texas or Kansas City.
I lived in the craziest, wildest city in the US. I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. So you can imagine there were people from all over the world. It was insane. Honestly, I think that's where my love for tourism started, because I met tourists every time I left the house.
And
Very
okay,
interesting.
thank you. And the other one is a comment about the Airbnb. And yeah, I haven't stopped to think about this, but actually, staying at Airbnb, it's a great experience because you get to learn more about the daily life at the city or town that you are traveling. Because on my last vacation or holidays, I traveled with my family to a beach, to Yucatan, and we stayed at a little beach. It was a town. I don't remember how to say pescador. Fisher?
Fisherman village, fisherman town, little town.
Yeah, it was a fisher town, and it was in a beach. And we stayed instead of staying at a hotel, we booked a Airbnb, and it was a house from a fisher family. So it was great because it was like only one floor, and you have the kitchen, and like the ceiling is very different, and all the things that a fisher family have in their house. It was uh, modified to have guests on their house. So it was a great experience, and we learned like so much. It was amazing staying on that fisher house.
I'm
Very
glad
good.
for
Thank
you
you
that
so much
you
for
have this
sharing.
experience.
I know. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, Hannah. I'm so glad you mentioned the Airbnb because, yeah, it's very different from going to a hotel. Absolutely agree. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you. Yes, Livia, and then we'll go to Christopher.
Yeah, I just would like to congratulate you, girls. I'm so impressive with the all the creative things that you showed it and the facility that you both have to connect with so many topics that we learn here. And I believe that the output that we saw today, it's like just show really, make clear that we learned with you, teacher, a lot without thinking twice. So thank you, girls, for this amazing, wonderful a presentation. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your having this personal touch in the presentation. Is really important to recognize because sometimes when talk about culture adaptability, we sometimes just focus in the beautiful part, and then you bring in these difficulties is really good, to know about that, and So thank you, Hannah, for all your comments or your everything that you said and shared with us as well. Thank you, girls. Was an amazing presentation.
Thank you very much, Livia. I agree. I agree. Actually, you as leaders always sharing some something personal. Remember the value of storytelling. So storytelling helps you connect with your audience. And I am sure you know this by now, right? So good job. Yes, Christopher, I know we cannot see you because you have internet connection problems, but we can hear you. So go ahead, Christopher.
I can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly well.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I really want to say that thank you girls for this presentation. With all of that comments that you did were so amazing, and I think the evolution that I saw in you also as part of these classes of leadership, it's so big, and I am I'm feel really like comfortable listening you uh some parts that I could listen because as teachers I my internet connection it's not really well. But right now I get it so good because as Diana said with the Airbnb, I think that's all a subject that we see in our classes, Mitch, of tourism and all the importance that it has in the globalized world that we live right now, and also all the experiences that uh, in the Middle East by Hannah, it's so good. I think this presentation has a lot of globalized like perspective, and I really love that kind of perspective because that helps us to improve all of our knowledge in this leadership in environment that we live, and also that mm, make us like a better leader every day.
Totally agree with you, my dear Christopher. Thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to add, I think I mentioned this before. Leadership sometimes gets lonely because once we get to know all these topics that we have shared here, once you get to open your mind to different visions and perspectives, it can be a lonely path because not everyone is going to be there and not everyone can understand sometimes where we're coming from. But I have good news for you. Even in your loneliness, look at us. We always end up meeting other people like us. And you're not alone, and you're never going to be alone, even if you feel alone. Okay. This class is the proof that eventually frequencies connect. Okay. And even if we are thousands of miles away, the one from the other, we are together always, and we are all part of something. Now, each one is going to take his and their own path after this class, but we will always have this right now, knowing that you will eventually create and you will have your own tribe sooner or later around you. So don't you lose hope. All right. I promise. I promise. You will always end up meeting with people who are in the same frequency. So let's finish. And I'm going to do this very briefly because actually these are things that we have been talking about, but I thought all this information was so interesting for me to share with all of you. And of course, I'm going to share the presentation with you in our virtual classroom. But look at this. I thought this was very interesting. Now, what we're living right now, because of how society is evolving, how the world is changing, this changes the requirement in our new leaders, of course. I don't have to say, of course, that new technologies and mastering new technologies, just the fact that we're taking this class virtually, this is the future, okay? So there are no barriers, there are no limits. And as I have told you before, if somebody had told me 30 years ago that I will be teaching such a wonderful class to such wonderful students from around the world, I wouldn't have, I would have probably thought they are witches and we're going to burn them because this is crazy, right? But of course, this is also something very important. The pace of change. I know all of you are used to this, and I hope that you have learned we cannot be afraid of change. And it's very important for you guys actually to feel comfortable with change, to feel comfortable with uncertainty, remember? And as we talked, there are cultures that are more confident with living with uncertainty and some cultures that are not. Guess what? Most of us are coming from countries where we're used to uncertainty. So that makes us actually, I actually think the future is ours, because those people coming from places where they cannot deal with uncertainty are going to have probably a hard time. Of course, changing demographics and employee expectations, this is changing. Don't be afraid of changes. Don't be afraid of ChatGPT. Don't be afraid of anything. Let's embrace everything. And you have the power to transform everything that comes to you. Everything. That is a power that you all have. And finally, our expectations are changing as customers too. Again, with COVID, who would have thought that we will end up ordering food on the phone and somebody will put the food on our, on our doorstep? Nobody thought that. And that was something new. And now we got used to shopping online, right? We do everything online now. Even Mr. Jenkins, he does his grocery shopping online. He just does the, like Amazon thing. And usually the fish, fresh fish, is on the doorstep by the time it's dinner time. So we have fresh fish every day just because Amazon Fresh. Who would have thought we would feel comfortable doing that? And that, of course, requires a new vision. Now, there are 7, again, transformative trends for leaders. And these are, of course, accidental leaders. What is that? That means that you will not necessarily plan to be a leader, or you will not necessarily plan, sometimes the circumstances, the changing circumstances will put you in the spot in which you will have the chance to show your leadership abilities, characteristics, and skills. Change endurance. Okay. What is this talking about? Again, when we are used to change, that makes us usually stronger. We're usually, even with change, people around us know that we're going to be okay because people feel confident around us. They know we're going to feel okay. Again, digital fluency. I'm not going to mention that again. Embracing disruption. Every time something crazy happens, and I hope not, of course, but COVID, something else happens again. Well, we're going to make it work. Let's make it work. As I always say, let's try to find, instead of focusing on, oh my God, this is horrible. Yes, it is. But put that aside as soon as you can and focus on how we can transform this. I love that word, transforming. Kicking glass. I'm going to help you understand what this means. There's something called the glass ceiling. The glass ceiling usually means women reaching CEO and executive positions. That's the glass ceiling. When usually organizations say, oh no, we don't have any preference for gender here. Men and women have the equal opportunities. Excuse me, but we still have people in the US, senators and representatives who are men making decisions about abortion, for example. Women don't get there, right? Or you still get CEOs and companies and organizations where most people in power are men, right? So kicking glass means breaking the barriers that have been put over time. No more barriers in the future. Reimagine reviews. Again, just having a different version, a different vision. Think crazy. A lot of people will be afraid of our crazy ideas, but the right people will listen to you and will be inspired by you. And finally, a culture reboot. I love this word. I love this expression. This means that even what we learned about the cultural dimensions, this is going to be changing in the next 10 or 20 years. You know why? Because globalization is going to change your children, other people's children, other countries' children, and these children are going to be more globalized. So what we usually learn as dimensions that are usually common in one country and another, well, that study was done 30, 40, 50 years ago. This is going to change. So in the future, we're going to need a new dimension, and we're going to need new studies to identify and actually learn how these cultures are growing and evolving. And there are, of course, 6 trends. Again, this is from another author. Some of them, as you can see, are repeated. That's why I share it. Artificial intelligence and technology, pace of change, new talent landscape, maybe right now, try to do things that no one else has done. Try to go places where no one else has gone. Purpose and meaning. I love this. When you have purpose, remember we talked about this. When you have a purpose, you are able to share that with the people around you. And that's itself inspiring. Morality, ethics, and transparency. I think many of the examples that Rose Kelly, for example, presented today, those are characteristics that they were there in her presentation. And finally, of course, what we're doing here, which is globalization. No more barriers, no more limits, nothing can stop us now, right? And these are the final things that you will need, guys. Accelerating globalization, you will need flexibility, cultural sensitivity, agility and collaboration, good strategic thinking, and capacity to cope with understanding. Same things we have been talking about. And then the demographic change is going to lead us into ability to attract, motivate, and retain diverse teams, how to work with people with so many different ideas, cultures, beliefs, etc. In my other class in Vancouver Community College, I'm actually teaching right now managing human resources, and we're beginning with understanding how teams work and why at the beginning teams have a problem trying to find the right fit, because everyone is fighting to represent his or her own individuality. So there's no more place for individuality in this world. As soon as you can put your individuality and your ego aside, the sooner you will be able to really learn how to work with others. Connectivity and digital lifestyles, we already mentioned that. Again, digital natives, which I think most of you are, and if not, even me, the old lady, I'm learning. I'm never stopping. And as I told you, I keep always studying because this keeps me updated. And finally, climate change and source resources. As Mr. Jenkins says, thank God in 20, 30 years we'll be dead. That's what he says. But I'm so sorry about you guys and your children and your grandchildren, because things are going to start to change. Last weekend here in Vancouver, we were at 32 degrees. That's crazy, guys. And this is changing again. Everything, the whole city, the whole culture, the whole tradition, everything is going to change. So again, we need the thinking skills to cope with differences. And this has to do with how climate change is going to change our environment. This is inevitable. I wish I had something. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing. You can do it later. Okay. But I just wanted to show you that this is a business model in which they mention global citizens, the future, creative leadership in the future, a liquid society in which work, life, everything is merging, changing, moving from one country to another. It's not a fixed society anymore. New diversity, of course, exactly what we've been talking about. Even in Morelia, we have people now from everywhere. We're welcoming new people, so diversity is everywhere. Now, we also need new models of economy because we're trying to be more responsible, social responsible, environmental responsible, etc. The female factor. It's not about fighting. It's about having the same opportunities, the same emotional intelligence. And again, I believe it has to do with showing that it's not about repressing who we are as women, but showing that those things that we will not or should not repress is that what makes us unique and what brings usually power and energy and enthusiasm and passion to our job environment. Well-being capital and economics for humans. This, I believe, are going to be the trends in the future. I think, again, these are just expectations. No one knows what's going to happen. But now I would like to open the microphones because we're almost finished with our class, and this is the time for some final reflections. Okay, we can wait for final reflections, don't worry. They can happen later. Let me go to the final announcements because it's 8:21 and I don't want to keep you here. So please watch your emails. You're going to receive emails between tonight and tomorrow, okay? And just reply to your emails by Friday at the latest, okay? Just saying, yes, I confirm that I have been informed about my final grade. Thank you very much. And I just need your emails because those emails are sent to our Director of Internationalization. I'm going to repeat again, my students in Brazil and Iraq, make sure, please, to get answer, okay, the questionnaire. I think it's a questionnaire, a survey, I'm not sure. It's a digital thing that I sent to your emails. And the Mexican students, if you haven't done it, don't do it. It's not for the Mexican ones. If you already did it, don't worry, you're not in trouble. I didn't know this. And finally, let me repeat then the information about the trip to Vancouver. We are hoping that this takes place. We already have a suggested date. I believe it's going to be the last week of March and the first week of April. Okay. We still have to work on the agenda, but the good thing, because I'm hosting these students who are coming from Tec de Monterrey, is they're helping us confirm things that we're doing. But for example, it's a fact that we're taking the ferry and we're traveling to Vancouver Island for one day. We're leaving at 7 a.m. in the morning. We'll be there by 11. We're going to hang out, have lunch in the Vancouver Island, and get back by 4 or 5 p.m. So we get home by 10 p.m. So those kind of activities are going to be included. Also the cost, I promise I'm going to send you the cost as soon as I can. Just, I'm going to ask you for a favor. When you reply to your grade email, to your the grade confirming your email, could you confirm your personal email in case we don't have access to our UNLA or your UNLA emails? So at least I can add you to my list of the students and former students and keep you updated with all the news about our spring 2024 trip to Vancouver. Yes, it's open to all of you, any of you. And as I already mentioned, I believe there are going to be opportunities to do PayPal, if that makes more sense for my students in Iraq and Brazil. You can do PayPal. Also for my students in Mexico, because actually the organization in charge of this is Open Metier, which is in Argentina. So you see, more globalization. We're completely globalized. They're in Argentina and they're the ones in charge of organizing this. I know Open Metier is doing that. And probably by August, we're going to have a virtual presentation for all the students and all the directors interested, so you can join and actually be informed about all the activities, all the conferences, and everything that we will be doing for our final trip to Vancouver. And finally, these are 3 quotes that I wanted to share with you as my final message to you. This is the era of titleless. You don't need a title. Share leadership where everyone can be a leader in any space. So you don't need a title right now. Again, what you do every day, there are people looking up to you. So please make sure that you're aware of that. People are looking up to me. Don't worry, you fail. If you fail, we still love you, because leaders fail. The only difference is that we leaders, we fail horribly, but we get up. And by getting up, we inspire others. So don't worry about making mistakes, okay? Quote number 2, the future needs passionate, happy, and confident young leaders like you, willing to challenge the status quo and stand up for their convictions. So sometimes it's going to be hard, because some people, again, won't like to be challenged. People like the status quo. People like to live in their comfort zones. And as we said, we don't get out of our box, right? We like that. We feel confident there. We feel safe. But guess what? Happiness in the future is not there. So make sure that whatever you do, some people may not like it, but as long as you're strict to your ethics, to your beliefs and your principles, and you know that what you're doing is good for you and those people around you, then you just keep going and don't let them stop. And finally, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more, and become more, you're already a leader. So I am already very, very proud of you. It's been a real honor to be your professor this semester. I will always carry you in my heart forever and ever. And I really hope life gives me the opportunity to see you again, to meet you again. Follow me on my social media so you can keep me updated on your adventures, and may the force be with you forever. Thank you very much. And I'm gonna cry. I know, I always do this. So sorry. Anyway, so any final comment, any final While I cry. I know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, you cannot cry. Come on, guys. I know, I know. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. So just expect your emails, please. Okay, be aware of your emails. I'm going to start sending them tonight and some of them tomorrow. So be patient. And before Friday night, just make sure to reply and make sure to add your personal email so I can add you to my list and I can keep you updated with our trip to Vancouver. Okay, very good. Any other comment, suggestion, idea? Anything else? Thank you so much, Ross Kelly. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Anything else, guys? Yes, dear Marianita Chavez, go ahead.
Well, only thank you because I think I could speak of all the class. We are so glad you were our teacher and you're always I don't know how to say, but you're always there for us like a teacher and like a I don't know, like a friend that motivate us and always inspire us. So thank you because you are not only letting us like the information on the theory, you let in every of us, in every of our hearts, you let like a little part of Allah and we will always be. Thank you.
Thank you. You see, I told you, I transcend for you. So thank you. Yes, Hannah, go ahead. Thank you very much.
So this is my first experience online. So from the or international also. So first time I was very nervous. So I was not. I was like how I could do this and how I could connect to them and how the teacher will adapt and so much more. And but now I could not forget this experience. This is one of my best experiences. And also, you as a teacher, I cannot forget that, how you adapt and how you are also, as she said, you are more than a teacher for us. So that we are feeling so close to you. And it's very sad that's the end. But thank you so much. And I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you. You don't have to be sad because usually what looks like a goodbye is usually the beginning of better things. So I know. I get emotional and I'm sorry, I cannot help it. Yes, Ross, go ahead. Thank you for your nice words, dear Hannah. Thank you. Yes, Ross, go ahead.
I'm gonna say this genuinely from my heart. It's actually a honor to be one of your students. I'm gonna remember this forever. Honestly, you remind me one of my teachers that is also from. She's American that used to teach me back then in high school. You kind of reminded me of her teaching style and everything. I adore how motivating you are and how you keep the class engaging between not just the teacher with the student, but the students themselves. How you used to make groups. I used to really love that, parts of the activity that you would do, where we would have like different groups and each one would share their own experiences and everything. I used to love that. Like, I didn't want that to stop because I would be learning, and I'm sure others would be as well. So I would like to thank you for everything you have done. And again, I am obsessed, honestly, with your teaching style. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you very much. I'm going to be very happy to share also these words with other directors and other students so they can keep joining me in the future classes that I'll be teaching. And still with Ula. And still, you see, I'm still hoping I get to see many of you, if not most of you, all of you in Vancouver in a few months. Yes, Livia, go ahead.
Yeah, I just like to thank you so much, teacher. We can feel from Brazil, from Iraq, from everywhere, your love, your care, your reception, your attention, your respect. So I remember a sentence that you said someday that's like, once you know some new culture, you are never the same anymore. So I can say this for you, having all these classes, I'm never gonna be the same Livia, the same student, the same leader. So you shaped me in a way that I wasn't expecting, and it went beyond my expectations. So I just, I don't know, I'm gonna cry. Thank you so much. Thank you
Don't
so
cry.
much for that.
Only one crying in this class. No, just kidding. kidding, just kidding. Thank you. And again, just don't forget to send me your personal emails. And again, you can follow me on my social media. I never post crazy things, but you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me. I think on Facebook, you find me like, I have no idea. What's my name on Facebook? Ada Sandoval, I think. And on Instagram, now it's private. I made it private because I was getting too many creeps. Sending me, I know I'm an old lady and I'm still getting creeps, I know. And so Mr. Jenkins told me, honey, just make it private. So, and actually it's so funny. I have to mention this. Michelle, you lived in Vegas. This Friday, I'm meeting Mr. Jenkins in Vegas. We're gonna meet there for a fun weekend. I know. So that's so weird that I'm going to Vegas and you said you live there. So anyway, so if you are in social media, you're going to be able to follow me, follow my adventures. And yes, I want to thank all of you again. I always tell everyone about all my students connected from anywhere in the world, but I really appreciate more than anything my students in Brazil being 11 o'clock at night. Even Mr. Jenkins tell me in Iraq, my students connecting at 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh my dear God, I wish honestly, you're an example for my students in Mexico. I know, right? You inspire also my students in Mexico. Be sure of that. Okay, so thank you very much. So we say something in Spanish and I'm going to translate it in a minute. El que mucho se despide, pocas ganas tiene de irse, which means the one saying goodbye for a long time means I don't want to say goodbye. And we've been saying goodbye for quite some time. So thank you very much. Please be reminded of your emails. I really, really appreciate it. It's been an honor. And please, I'm sure that if I follow you on social media, I'm going to be always there. If you need me, send me a private message and I'll be very happy to Zoom with you, to talk to you. You're not alone and you will never be alone as long as I'm here. Okay? Thank you. Best of luck. I love you.
teacher.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
teacher.
See you soon. See you soon. I know I'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Let me stop recording now. Thank you.